It's easy to hear your favorite artist on WFPK from wherever you are. Listen on your smart speaker, live stream from our website at WFPK.org from Louisville Public Media.
Consequence Podcast Network.
Welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith with the interview series presented by WFPK at WFPK.org, Consequence of Sound, and the Consequence Podcast Network. Thank you so much for making your way here, checking out this series. As always, you can hit the subscribe button. I do 3 interviews every single week, brand new one every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So it's a great way to keep up with all of your favorite artists, discover some new ones, know what's happening in the music world. iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Acast, Podchaser, NPR, YouTube for the video versions, or anywhere you get your podcasts from. I'm Kyle Meredith. Today, I'm talking with one of my all-time favorite artists and a musical buddy, St. Vincent. She is back with a brand new record called Daddy's Home, or maybe it's Daddy's Home. Really not sure how to pronounce it. But this is a record that finds Annie showcasing like an early 70s sound, and we're going to talk about how that era relates to the music that her father played her in her own youth, and how that story ties to his 2010 prison sentence and recent release. Now, we're also going to draw the parallels to a 70s nostalgia during the 90s. Annie and I are about the same age. I'm just about a year older than her. So expect some name-checking of awesome things like Dazed and Confused and the Smashing Pumpkins, and Tool, which she had said in other interviews that before she landed on the sound for this record, she was considering a Tool-inspired record. So I do want to get more specific about that, like what exactly era of Tool might she have taken on. We'll get into that as well and hear about the tour that will eventually follow this album, which she tells us, expect a much looser live show than the Masseduction setup of the past few years, which comes at a really good time, too, as we'll all finally be more connected in the pit, right? So let's do this. Talking about this record, Daddy's Home, it's Kyle Meredith with St. Vincent.
Hey, what's up, Kyle? How's it going?
I'm great. How you doing?
I think I'm pretty good. How are you doing?
So once again, I feel like all I do is compliment you every time I talk to you, but
I mean, let's be honest, I don't mind.
Dude, Daddy's Home is so good.
Hey, thanks.
I'm never, I always assume that you're going to blow me away, but that doesn't actually take away from the feeling of when you actually do blow me away with these records.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and this one again. So I feel like there is lots to talk about with this one, like a lot of different angles to come at this. And let's start with that sound, because I'm looking at this, first off, I should say, I'm looking at this really amazing comic in front of me called Daddy's Home that I was sent, and I've got a perfume scented rose to just set the ambiance for this record.
Oh, good.
And you get this sort of gritty, as you said, sort of 70s New York inspired record. And when I think about that, I mean, New York in the 70s, that's the beat up years on the way to becoming the dangerous era. I mean, New York was almost left for dead at this point, and yet it's a romantic vision that we have of that. What attracted you to that corner of the country in that era?
Well, a few things. I think one is that when I really go back and think about it, the music that was happening there in the early 70s, again, post the idealism of the Flower Children, pre the either like nihilism or escapism of punk and disco, there was music that was this confluence of I don't know, people kind of telling it how it was lyrically, and then all of this really great fusion of rock music, but with jazz harmony into it, and funk in there and soul. It was just this really secretly sophisticated but utterly musical output from that time. So if I really think about it, that's music I've listened to more than anything. But I'd never really approached it per se. And that music has a lot of different things to kind of teach me. It's an absolutely different animal than things I've done in the past. So one, that was okay, this is really exciting to me as a musician. And then the other part is, I mean, I think that period of time reminds me of where we are now. I try to be somewhat of a student of history, and we're in crazy times now, like we were then, with a lot of cultural melee, a lot of economic uncertainty. I feel like the veneer of polite society has been in a lot of ways like ripped off, and we're like, what are the things that really bind us? And we're kind of in the process of, as a culture and as a society, of rethinking what those are, or examining them and going, wait, is this what we want it to be? So I think it feels oddly aligned.
It's much more truthful, I'll say, than I was thinking back. Like, you and I are just 1 year apart. In fact, mine's September 30th, 81. And I was thinking, like, we both lived through the 70s nostalgia of the 90s.
Yes, exactly.
And this, but that was through the rose-colored glasses, right? That was just the Dazed and Confused version of it.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, I love that. I love that soundtrack.
Of course. Yeah. Oh, it's amazing. But you're right, because this is something different. I should ask while I'm here, though, like, did you participate in that version of the nostalgia during the 90s?
Well, I mean, I did, because I also saw Dazed and Confused, and I also decided that I loved Foghat. I mean, we were all right there. But yeah, I mean, I think we saw that 70s nostalgia because our parents were boomers, right? Like, so that was the Steely Dan and Stevie Wonder. That was the music that my dad was definitely listening to all the time. So that's what I heard, or that's what he showed us. I wasn't necessarily around him all the time because I didn't grow up with him, but so I definitely remember being in junior high and just shopping at thrift stores and having some pair of like bell bottoms, and that it's funny too, because you see it now and there's a big like 90s nostalgia, which is interesting. But I wonder if the people in the 70s felt the same way when they saw these kids like really mixing and matching stuff that was like kind of incongruous. Like like now when there's a 90s nostalgia, there's some of it that you're like, totally, yeah, that was a great part of the 90s. Then there's some of it you're like, no, that we wanted to forget that wasn't the cool part. Like that part sucked. Like, but without context and without that kind of baggage of growing up and needing to define yourself by the things that you like and don't like, more specifically by the things you don't like, then it's all even Steven. Just everything is up for grabs, and it's really interesting to see it just devoid of context.
Yeah. It's interesting that we're drawing the 70s and 90s again, because there are 2 points on this record that I made notes on. The melting of the sun, and I was thinking like, oh, this is the moment that really does remind me of the AM radio when FM went AOR. But on the flip side of that, there's Live in the Dream, which I got a total like Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness vibe off of that one. I mean, that's,
deep cut. Right. So, are people talking about, like, I know because Billy Corgan kind of, but went like pretty right wing, I guess. But do people talk about those Smashing Pumpkins? Are they part of the like?
I think so. Maybe, I mean,
things people really like.
Maybe in my world, he come out with a new record, and it's I think to me it's what Adore should have been, as far as his synth goth thing. So he's out there. Yeah. I mean, of course I hang around in the rock world. So he's still, and especially with peak 90s nostalgia, like he's in the conversation.
Is he in the conversation with kids? Like, are kids like, yeah, Smashing Pumpkins?
Yeah. I don't know that answer.
Yeah. Tell me what the children are listening to.
39 years old. That'd be creepy if I got too close,
I know, that's true. That's true.
It is interesting, the angles that you are coming at musically on this, because, kind of falling back, as you said, to that, like even I thought, in those first few tracks, like the music reflects, I'm going to, because the play on words with Daddy's Home, right? Mm-hmm. Like there is the literal paternal story of your father that's sort of, taking place here. And then there's also the Daddy's Home sort of phrase to it. And I do find that the music, especially in the front end, reflects that sexier side of it. Was that a conversation that you were having with yourself?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's the Daddy's Home thing works on a lot of levels for me. Obviously the very literal, but also in the fun, I've transformed into daddy now. Who are we kidding? And, and also just, it's God, it's so pervy. It makes me laugh, especially when especially when you factor in that there is that layer of the literal father being home. It's a little like Arrested Development or something.
Right.
The Afternoon Delight joke. I don't know if you remember that.
Of course.
Oh
The album
God,
just needs a narrator.
I just saw that Jessica Walter passed away, and I was thinking so much of which is very sad. But I was thinking one of my favorite moments of her on that show was when she has some kind of injury and she's on medication, and where she says she mistook a blinking eye alcohol warning for a winking eye alcohol suggestion. So good. Anyway, sorry.
Mantra to live by is really what that is.
You're like, I dare you. Go on, I dare you.
It's I want to go further into that a little bit though, because when I'm looking at this comic poster board in front of me, and it ends with "Am I the daddy now?" As you said, you basically become the daddy. And I even look at that track, "My Baby Wants a Baby." Let's see if I can ask this in the way I mean to. Do you ever add in deflection to stir us away from something personal or obvious? This wink and a nod, while you're actually kind of shoving something very personal within it.
Well, I mean, I think it's just possible to just have a sense of humor, I guess. I will. I mean, I guess I hadn't thought of it like deflection. I kind of more thought of it as like, sometimes to get the point across, you have to be like incredibly self-effacing or write the most base, like BASE version of yourself into it. So are there real feelings of like, oh my God, I feel absolutely like a child, like I can barely clothe or feed myself. Like what, like, yeah. Like, yeah, that's a real, feeling. Is it exaggerated? Sure. I mean, so it's, I don't know. It's kind of all in there. I just tried to write about flawed people, obviously myself included, with humor and pathos.
The Holiday Party is a really good example to me of that moment right there, because here's a song that feels great. It feels good to listen to this, and it's only afterwards going, is there something much darker happening in here that I just shouldn't be paying attention to?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's like, God, I mean, everybody's just walking around trying to figure it all out. And the reason I could write certain stories is because, like, I've been that person. I've been on both sides of that story. I've been the girl on the morning train, in last night's clothes. Like, I've been there, so I can sort of I can talk about it with, I can just kind of talk about it again with humor and compassion. It's that I'm not, with the exception of one song on the record, which is Down, there's really not any like indictments of people. It's sort of like kind of trying to see it from all sides.
It's an interesting choice of words, just considering again the paternal story and the indictment, I guess.
I'm not in a prison of my own making.
There it is.
Sometimes we're incarcerated in our own mind, but
that's an interesting point, and we should hit on that a little bit, because for the ones who don't know, and you can find out about this, of course, in any of the notes that you've been putting out there. But that's the other point, that your father went to prison for I guess a white collar crime, right? And that was,
he went to prison for being amazing.
Okay.
That's what people go to prison for
being a great father, great dad. I just thought, that's what an interesting thing for a relationship, because, for a decade ago, like, your life is 100% different. It's not like he left during, while you were already kind of becoming a star or whatever. Like, it was right at the front end. And then here, I mean, I don't know that there's exactly a question here, but it's got to be its own level of bizarre, to come out and see, I don't know, what you've become, because it's awesome.
Well, thanks. It's an interesting one. I mean, he definitely had access to TV and some media and stuff in there. So I think there would be certain other inmates who knew that I was his daughter would put press clippings on his bed and that kind of stuff. And he'd, I think there were a fair amount of like inmates, kids who were fans and things like that. I mean, maybe not a fair amount, but at least a couple that I heard about. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, life is long, and when it all kind of went down, I definitely wrote about it extensively in my work, but I never addressed it head on in any sort of autobiographical way for a lot of reasons. One, I want to protect my family. I'm really close with my family. It's their story too. Also, I wasn't at any kind of point where I didn't have any perspective on it. And also I wasn't, I think, established enough as anything to let that kind of big autobiographical detail kind of lead the story. I didn't think that I could sort of withstand it, or the music could. And then also, it's just like not, I also kind of firmly believe that the artist's intention is totally irrelevant. Like, does the work, I even feel this way when I'm looking at, at an art museum and there's like, oh, look, there's a placard that explains this work. And you're like, oh, that's interesting. Either I had a totally different experience with the work and was really enjoying it, and then I read the artist's intent and now I feel confused, or you're like, I mean, this happens quite a bit, because certainly not all work that deals with trauma means it's good art. It just deals with trauma. And I say that including myself. I've written things about traumatic things that weren't particularly good. But the same thing applies when I'm thinking of, like, looking at a piece of art that I have no emotional reaction to and really no interest in, and then reading that, like, oh, it's about something really traumatic, and you're like, yeah, but that doesn't make it, that doesn't make it a better work to me, or that doesn't mean it reaches me in a different way. It just means that it happens to be about something very sad. So anyway, all that to say, I'm not talking about it now in order to, like, give gravitas to the record or ask for sympathy in any kind of way. I mean, I am where I am with it, and I'm fine. It just sort of, I think, because it had already been in the press in a way that I didn't consent to, I was like, well, I guess I get to tell my story. And if I tell my story, it'll be, with way more nuance and with a point of view instead of a kind of tabloidy thing.
It does make me wonder, you had teased a little bit out there that, before you decided musically where to go, that you were thinking about that Tool-inspired record. And I thought, oh, we let our imaginations wander. Like, where could that have gone for that? But I started to consider, were you talking more about, and I guess there's no pun intended, but like Tool prison sex or Lateralis 10,000 Days?
Oh, wow. Thank you for that other nice reminder. Jesus, Kyle. I more like, I mean, I think slightly more in the enema world.
And there we are again, back in the 90s.
Yeah, there we are.
I know we got to wrap up here. I do want to quickly ask about what, we're still a bit away, I know that, but for the tour on this, what does that mean? Because you're such a visual artist, and you've talked about the tour probably being a bit more raw. And I'm wondering if that means like a bit more punk. Like, I go back to your song Crocodile, stuff like that. Like, is it going to be sort of that style or something?
I think it's definitely going to be, whereas Masseduction, it worked out in that we all happen to be in a bit of a production arms race in music anyway. And that show and that music, I think, really benefited from, like, this multimedia submission experience. But this one is definitely, like, it's just way looser, and it really is about, like, people playing music really well together on a stage for other people, which I know that sounds like I'm being sarcastic or reductive, but that's just really what it is. So I think it'll be kind of well timed. I'm hoping that it's well timed for when we all get back together, and we really just want connection. I don't think we'll want, like, distraction per se. I think we'll want connection. So hopefully we can all kind of meet on that with this music.
It's interesting that you brought up Masseduction, because I did wonder. It's like the New York, and I'll finish here by bringing it completely around. The New York of Masseduction and the New York of Daddy's Home. Like, I guess it's on the stage where they finally come together.
Yeah, with wildly different color palettes. Really, truly wildly different.
Annie, I'm so happy always when you give new music. This album is outstanding. It's amazing. Thank you for the music.
Kyle.
And it's so great catching up with you again. I can't wait to do this all live.
You too. I hope to see you at a backstage at an arena in fucking Tuscaloosa or something.
It'll be great. It'll be awkward and rushed as always.
Okay,
just the way backstage meetings are.
That's the way we do.
Thank you so much, Annie. Take care. We'll see you soon.
All right. Bye.
Now, while we're here, we might as well include the other interviews that Annie Clark, St. Vincent, and I have done together. Let's start back in, we'll go backwards. 2017, she had just released Masseduction, balancing these huge hooks with unannounced detours, both musically and lyrically. It was a record that was at once one of the catchiest and craziest records of the year. She and I spoke about writing the record, her activities between LPs, and being the subject of tabloid culture. So this is part 2, Kyle Meredith with St. Vincent.
Hi, how are you?
I think the last time we talked, I ran into you in Nashville, and we did an interview backstage in your dressing room, and you were in one of the craziest tours, promotional-wise, that I think I've ever seen any artist be put through. And I think the word to be used is frazzled was that day. To do this album, and it's such a great album, like, how did you pull this off and not have to do it in such a vacuum that you could have been sucked in from all of this?
How did I do this record not in and stay standing? You just have to carve out the time. I finished touring in the St. Vincent record in the fall of 2015, and I started writing kind of immediately, which is my way, because I realized I actually don't know what I think or feel until I write it in some way, be it like, an essay or a song. That is really my way to understanding myself. So that was something I kind of needed to do right after I stopped touring, because I wasn't sure how I felt about any of it. And I made a short horror film, which I think really, it was just so nice to do something else, frankly. And I don't know, I guess I'm a person who's always enjoyed work more than fun.
That horror film, I've only seen the trailer, but when I listened to the record, and this is probably somewhat coincidental, but I thought there are moments in this album when the music sounds like it could have been a horror soundtrack.
Well, I mean, I was making a lot of different kinds of music. I mean, this album is what it is because these are the strongest songs, and this is what was supposed to happen and come together eventually, working with Jack Antonoff. But I have music for days. I mean, just what people, it's like an iceberg, as a writer, it's like an iceberg, people only see the top, but there's an entire world of unheard music underneath it,
I sort of chuckled a little bit when I was listening to a lot of, especially what I was talking about, that type of music, and it comes from a lot of synth, and I said, here's a point in your career where you've created this amazing guitar, and then there's a line on the record where you say, I hold you like a weapon, which I don't know if is a guitar, but I thought about that, and I said, and it's a synth-heavy record.
There is a lot of guitar, it just doesn't, it might not sound exactly like guitar. I mean, I've always done that, where guitar has been a little, gone through the looking glass. I mean, the live show I'm playing constantly. People just might not recognize it as guitar. Yeah. But that doesn't bother me. Guitar will always be a strong presence.
Did I get the line right? With
I'll hold you like a weapon.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's so cool. And like, there's these moments all throughout the record that's, the lyrics are like what you did with the cities and how you tied it into relationship. I mean, you've always had a great knack of these lyrics and to marry this really interesting music, but I feel like this is one of the most poetic records that you've ever done.
Thank you very much. I spent so long making sure that every word was right. When asked about the creative process, which I am, I guess almost daily, it's mysterious to me. These things emerge and you slowly but surely have this cohesive work that all interlinks with each other. I mean, the song Masseduction more or less lays out all the characters that you meet in the record, and the I can't turn off what turns me on might as well be the thesis, of the record.
Another line in there, and I feel like this is one of those lines that any artist would really want to avoid explaining, and maybe you feel like it about all your lyrics, but what a bore to be so adored.
I was thinking about actually a Brian Eno line from Here Come the Warm Jets, where he sings, "Oh, what a burden to be so relied on."
Yeah.
I was thinking of it in that kind of tone, But I will leave it at that.
Well, I'll say that. I'll say that you grew from this really, you grew from a cult rock icon to being part of celebrity tabloid gossip rags, and I sort of took it a little bit from like, that's got to be weird. That's just got to be a weird point in anybody's life.
It was strange. Yeah, it's a strange thing. What's strangest to me about it, and just the one thing that I'll say about it is that it's part of the whole thing. A part of the whole celebrity culture thing is this aspect of wealth aspiration and fame aspiration that bums me out only because what it says to me is that we as a culture and we as government have not taken care of our people. Because I think if people were happier, more contented, and it wasn't just the corrosive side of capitalism all the time, then there wouldn't be these false idols. So that's my assessment of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got paparazzi'd a time or two, and sometimes you are walking out of working out and you have a camel toe or something. It's like blah, so stupid, but whatever.
Well, you're to that point. You're to the point where your lyrics are being seriously analyzed with a fine-tooth comb, and the people are dissecting every part of this because you have this life in the public eye, and it's got to be a big transition for everybody. I know it spells success in the end. I hope it does, for you, because it certainly seems like it does. But just to kind of grasp onto all of that and then work that into the art, it goes back to, your relationship with your audience. And you and I had talked about before as a performer and a manipulator, which, it's, again, how you do it. It's a really interesting way that you've pulled all of this off.
Thank you. Well, I think one aspect of it is that I've gotten more successful in a sort of slow and steady manner, like the tortoise and the hare, or the tortoise in this instance. And so when I was confronted with that, more like super mainstream, like tabloid, whatever, celebrity gossip rag stuff, I knew who I was and I knew who my friends were, and so it wasn't like a tectonic shift in my life. It was just something that I had to kind of figure out where to put it, how to deal with it.
Well, I love the way it's come out. I seriously do. It's my favorite record of the year already, and one of my favorites of yours too. So
thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. And that's our 10 minutes, as I see. So we'll see you in Louisville here in a couple weeks.
Okay, I look forward to it.
All right.
Nice to talk to you again.
Now we'll jump back to 2015. Annie and I met backstage at a show in Nashville. I think she was opening up for the Black Keys or something at the time. So we got to talk about being St. Vincent, the Grammys, being weird. That's sort of its own conversation, mythology, and the politics of the day at that point. So here's part 3, Kyle Meredith with St. Vincent.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's good, and congratulations, because you got a Grammy nod. Grammys.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
It is exciting.
Yeah. I mean, is that a big thing? You have some of those artists who are like, nah, competitions, all this. But I do I like awards and all of these things, and it would be awesome to be an artist who gets a Grammy nod.
It would be cool. It is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the thing is, more than making music a blood sport competition, what it kind of signifies is an awareness that the mainstream now sort of has about me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's more what it signals, rather than,
I'm beating all of you or anything
yeah,
like that, right?
I mean,
yeah.
it's obviously not a competition.
The mainstream and you has been a very funny relationship so far. There's a quote by a Canadian artist named Dan Mangan who said, "The weirder I got, the more popular I got."
Wait, Mangan.
Dan Mangan,
I'm
yeah.
thinking of Jeff Mangum.
Probably different, yeah.
Neutral Milk
Right,
Chocolate.
yeah. Not him.
Mangum.
Anyway, because they were allowed to be weird from the beginning.
You're going to edit this, right?
We are.
Okay, cool.
But anyway, his quote was just the weirder I got, the more popular I got. And that seems like you've been able to kind of do that as well. And we're using weird in the sense of like, you're definitely not Hootie and the Blowfish or something like that.
Right. I wish I
goodness.
was.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, the money's probably nice, I guess, but
For Hootie?
sure.
Yeah, I think we should. Let's pull those finance reports, can we? I want to see where that went.
No, but you've been able to that. Do you take any kind of pleasure in freaking out the masses? I think Saturday Night Live was a good example of that because you get on there and then suddenly you have all of these people who've never heard of St. Vincent going, what?
Right.
Yeah.
No, you know what? I don't get like specific pleasure from being quote unquote weird. I honestly just I've had the opportunity to grow over 5 records, including the collaboration I did with David Byrne, and I just want to make art that I'm proud of and put on shows that are entertaining and fun for me. And it's sort of a big bonus that more people are interested now than they were at the beginning, and hopefully that trend will continue. But it was funny. I mean, I definitely saw some reactions from Saturday Night Live that were like, who the hell is this person?
Right.
Why were my eyes so polluted by this? Just like, whoa. It's funny. I mean, to me, it doesn't really matter. All of my favorite artists are people who were pretty polarizing.
Sure.
I mean, I don't know that it's, to me, it's not necessarily a bonus to be beloved by all. Find me one person who's beloved by all.
And it doesn't happen.
It doesn't
Sure,
exist.
right,
And if
right.
it does, it's milquetoast.
Right,
so
right.
Whatever.
It's kind of interesting, though. Right now, I see that pop music, in maybe even the top 40 term, is allowed to be weirder than ever. Accepting folks like Lorde into pop music, and even Beyonce when she tries something. It's a little bit different than what it's gotten to a point where I think people are wanting a little bit more, and allowing to get that. So you could be in that same spot.
Yeah. I mean, it all comes down to songs, though. I mean, Lorde had some great songs, and Beyonce had some great songs on her, many. I don't mean some, to the exclusion of others. But I mean, it all comes down to songs, and it always will. I think that's the thing that's not exactly any easier to craft, even with all the technology that we have at our disposal.
No matter how bad we want there to be a formula, so it will be easy.
Yeah.
There's never that formula.
Beep boop bop boop beep.
Yeah, I keep thinking
can't
that there
plug
is
it
that
in.
like Rivers from Weezer thought for a while that there was a mathematical equation.
Yeah, well,
that if you wrote the song and people would just love it, or they would accept it easier, or whatever it was.
There are things. I mean, in terms of like radio play,
Yeah.
you could dissect things and go, okay, a lot of things are at this BPM. They're in major keys. They're this. The chorus is
No romance.
2 BPM faster.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people write like that and
Yeah.
write. I mean, I think that's interesting from the sort of science experiment land, but it's not really. It's not. It's not something that I like internalize or take to heart when I'm writing.
And thank goodness.
Well, there's a lot of avenues for music to exist, and it doesn't all have to be channeled through the same platform. To get to the mainstream.
You have written, whatever. You have many amazing songs.
I done wrote.
You've wrote some great songs.
Thank you.
And the new record, the self-titled record, really seems like everything has built up to this. It feels like the all-encompassing St. Vincent record. Do you get to a point where you say, I have mastered a sound, where do I go from here? Or is there a point, like using one of your idols like David Bowie as an example, to say, okay, I've become Ziggy Stardust, when do I turn into the Thin White Duke?
Yeah. I just saw the David Bowie exhibit in Chicago, which was excellent. And he said something about, if he could just be the, something about like the propaganda machine for his art, something like that. And it's fun to play with character and to play with theatricality, especially at a time that sort of has an idea about austerity being more authentic. think people kind of tend to go back to that. Like things that are austere and nihilistic are more authentic, or not even nihilistic. Maybe like, you know, Dust Bowl, fat back bacon, hard on sleeve kind of music.
Yeah.
Which is great, but is that aesthetic? We shouldn't ascribe authenticity to aesthetic.
Right, do we
I think
believe
aesthetic is like
Yeah.
you can really explore it, and I've done that on this record. It's been really fun.
Yeah. Well, like to me, in the big scope of rock and roll, and I talk about this a lot. I need the mythology of rock.
Mm-hmm.
I need an artist to become something more than a musician on a stage. And it doesn't happen all that much. And you seem to have taken that to a great height with this.
Well, thank you. It's really it's just about fun.
Yeah.
Just about fun. And
Am I putting too much weight on that?
No,
Yeah.
not at all. Not at all. I mean, that the visual side of it and the sort of creation of the myth making, like that is so much fun, and it's harder to do, I think, in this day and age when people are very very keen to show every mundane part of themselves and then kind of elevate it to something interesting. We live in very Dada times, I think.
Because you have some of those artists, and it's rare that they don't have like a web presence so much. And if they do, it's a marketing team that just posts show dates and everything. You don't get that inside. Right. And we as a fan, we're like, come on, give me more. And maybe it's just that carrot dangling out there, or whatever. For you, and I guess this goes back to the early interviews, the first record and stuff, where everybody's trying to say who is Annie Clark and who is St. Vincent. And are they two different people? And I know you had to do a lot of explaining about that in the other days, but does it get to a point where the character, if there's a character of St. Vincent, just eats Annie Clark alive and you become this thing?
Well, the Annie Clark is is sweating in a winter coat under lights that I wish I hadn't worn because I'm sweating. So there's that. No, what it is, well, to be honest with you, I have no idea, because I've been on tour for my adult life, but also like on this particular tour. I've been out for 10, 11 months.
This is crazy.
I know, it is a little, it's only something that crazy people would do.
Sure.
And I happen to love it so much. And I think the thing is, you just get insatiable for experience, whatever that experience is, and remain kind of agnostic about the result.
Right.
And the same goes for like the creative process. You kind of just dig in, you find those cracks, you find your own weaknesses and your own little nooks and crannies of anxiety, and you just press into them.
What an amazing creative torture machine.
Just like you just dig in, and so that's what we've been doing.
Yeah.
And I don't know where it's going to lead, but I know that I live for the connection of the audience and performer and whatever that alchemy is for the show.
Right.
And I love the idea of an elevated performance and real theatricality, and it's special. You're supposed to do something that's bigger than you.
Right, and you've done that. With calling this St. Vincent record St. Vincent, and self-titled record. Would there be a difference? Would there be an Annie Clark record? Is that something completely different? Does that even exist?
No, I mean, I am my job.
Right. And again, I know this is kind of a question that you've had to answer for a long time.
And also, I don't have the answer to
right,
it either.
Yeah.
I am my work. I am my life's work.
Yeah.
I give almost everything.
And we are grateful.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole thing. I'm just glad to get to do what I love for a living, and not a lot of people get to do it. And so, I feel in some ways a responsibility to just like go as hard as I possibly can to I don't know.
Yeah.
We just don't have a whole lot of time
Sure.
on planet Earth. You might as well make as much
I love that.
art as you can in the interim.
How much are you making right now? I know there was 2 songs that you just released for Record Store Day. Are you at a point where you write as much as makes the record, or is there a lot left over that you kind of say, one day?
There's a fair amount of things left over. With this record, I actually had more material than could possibly fit on the record, and more material that we, John Congleton and I finished, and then it just became like the grand puzzle piece of, okay, what goes on an album, and what slows down the momentum, what feels right for this collection of songs. And so Sparrow and Pietà, which came out on the 10-inch, those were things that were recorded in the same session. And I really loved both of the songs, but just they didn't fit on the thing. And there's another song that came out, I think, called Del Rio, that was a Japanese B-side.
I remember that one, right?
Yeah. And a couple other songs. That
so you try to, if they're special, right, you still try to get them out there.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just like, well, we'll put them in the vaults and wait for the deluxe edition in 20 years.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I think fans are a little bit hip to the kind of crass record company repackaging of the same thing. Right. Like, oh, just in time for Christmas, here's...
Well, I don't get it when it's only like
cover.
a year later, but like the 25th anniversary, like Doolittle's 25th anniversary just came out. Like, I love that. I want that.
That's 25 years old?
And you're welcome.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
I've got some killing myself to do.
I've been having an argument with my friends about the best Pixies record, and I think I'm the only guy on the planet that likes Bossa Nova better than the rest.
Yeah, I like Doolittle.
Yeah, I know. I'm like Bossa Nova all the way, and I'm the one. Yeah,
that's funny.
25 years. Well, anyway, we get anniversaries of, I don't know, when, how old is your first record now? That's got to be...
My first record's it's actually not that old. I've just been on the road since before it came out. 2007.
Is it?
8 years old.
Was it? Oh,
yeah,
okay. I thought it was
old.
a little bit older than that. So.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
You've been here forever.
I've like all of us, we have all been here. Let's just talk about quantum physics and the time-space
Blow our
continuum.
minds right at the end.
We will never cease to exist.
Yeah. Well, with the internet now, you don't ever die. That's true.
That's true.
Yeah.
Although what I like this thing that they're doing in Europe with the like the right to be forgotten.
Right. They did
yeah,
say that. You think they'll ever actually pass here, though?
I wonder why it doesn't.
I don't know.
Why? I mean, certainly
because we can't agree on anything, and nothing gets done, ever.
Politics
gets done. I mean, it's down here. No, it's not. The politics of our day. I had that written at one point.
You did.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a messy time.
Oh.
I mean, it's always a messy time. It's always a messy time, and we can always, I think, at any point go, this world is being crazy. But I honestly, and I'm not near the only person that's ever said this, have never sensed such defeat of any kind of hopes and dreams of a system as what's going on now.
Yeah. Although, you know what? I gotta say, I was just I was driving I was in a taxi cab, going from New York to somewhere, Chicago.
Yeah.
Going to the airport, and I was talking to the driver who's from Belarus, and we, obviously that's, he saw the Soviet system crumble and the satellites, whatever, go away and whatever. Anyway, he said that it's so, now where was he living? In Minsk? No. He was visiting Moscow. This is going to be a great story. You're definitely going to air this like stoner story that I half remember. But the point is that there is more corruption other places.
Right.
Like you would have to.
That's fair.
There's more corruption. There are a lot of places that are.
And it's scary though to start comparing. It's like we if we're in our own bubble. It's like, man, I just wish this bubble were better.
Yeah, no, I wish this bubble were better as well. But one thing that is great about touring is you go and you see how things are other places, and you really can compare and contrast. Like, wow, man, and you have conversations with people, and ask them like, hey, what is your life like here? How are you? How's it going? What's your sense of things in terms of the state of the world? And we have a long way to go.
But maybe it makes John Boehner and Mitch McConnell look a little bit less worse.
Man,
I don't want to say that. I'm not going to say it.
I don't even look at that. It's too. Yeah. It just seems like such a farce. I don't even look at it anymore. Yeah. We've got a new Jim Crow thing going on. South with the disenfranchisement of basically most of the black population.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, well,
Yeah, right.
we pretend like we like to pretend like we
First world,
are sort
first
of
world.
post-racial and stuff,
Yeah,
and all this
yeah.
stuff with the fucking police shooting unarmed people. It's get out of town. But
it's got to come around at some point. I mean, there are enough people pissed off. There are enough people mad in the world right now that are. I mean, don't you think? Like that's the hopeful. That's the hopeful scenario.
Yeah, but it's a systemic problem. It's been I mean, again, this is like half-remembered stoner.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
I'm not a stoner at all, but just like
No, I get it, yeah.
a brain full of mush, you know, piecing together information. But I mean, I do think that human beings, maybe we're just not that great at organizing ourselves into systems.
So what's the fix on that then?
Well, I don't know. I've been looking at ant populations.
Right.
Ants on their own are kind of unlikable, but they're capable of doing amazing things
system,
together.
right? But
I don't know.
getting everyone in line like ants, that's complete. It feels like impossible. You know, they all know their job and they do their job and that's their job. But ants aren't really creative on their own.
Right.
And you were creative.
We're all creative.
Yeah.
Everybody's creative.
Right.
I've been seeing a lot. I've been going to a lot of museums on tour, especially. I guess the term for it, if you had to term it, would be like outsider artists. But a lot of people who their only means of communication with the outside world is through art. Would be, you know, whether they have severe autism or schizophrenia or whatever, or were just kind of misunderstood and institutionalized during the course of their lives or whatever. And the main takeaway from all of that is that, like, human beings have an incredible creative capacity and an irrepressible urge to create. Yeah. And that's really special. That's really special.
That's where
and
the
ought
good
to
stuff
be
comes from.
Embraced.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Under the most dire circumstances. Yeah. So we're complicated. I mean, human nature is violent and insidious and beautiful and brilliant, you know?
And when hasn't it been, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always been that. And I don't think we're getting worse. Think of all the diseases that have been eradicated.
I'm going to agree with you on that. I don't think we're getting worse.
I don't think we're getting worse. Our problems are just getting a little
like there's no actual Nazi regime with Hitler and everything happening right now. So we haven't got to that point
No,
again,
I mean,
so.
there is genocide happening all over the planet.
That's,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do this is like half remembered.
It's all right. I don't think we're going to solve the world's problems right now, although I had, you know, my own hope that when this conversation started that we would. But
yeah,
you know,
well,
we're propelling it. That's what we're doing.
Human nature, just crushing disappointment.
Thank you for the crushing disappointment.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Annie, St. Vincent,
Pleasure.
it is a pleasure
nice
to talk
to you.
Yeah, and congratulations again on the Grammy nod.
Thank you.
And now we'll round it up all the way back in 2012. The first time that Annie Clark and I met was backstage at Bonnaroo during that year. And on this one, we were talking about her collaborative LP with David Byrne, punk rock, dancing, and so much more. Part 4 of Kyle Meredith with St. Vincent.
Thank you.
Welcome here. Have you been here?
I was
think
here
you were here,
3
right?
years ago. Yeah, it's been a little while.
It missed you, I'm sure.
Yes, I missed it.
You're actually kind of a festival pro at this point.
We played, we did Coachella this year and Sasquatch and heading off to Europe to do more festivals. So
Tell me though, when you're playing to a crowd, and I know it's got to be a bit different than playing to a club, does it all seem like one person out there, or do you still get to center in on specific people, like you can still tell it's a million?
Oh yeah, you can still center in on certain people. I do have this theory though that once a crowd gets past maybe 4,000 people, it sort of dissipates, and it could be 4,001 or
Right.
it could be 40,000.
Yeah, and you wouldn't be able to tell
And you
the
wouldn't
difference.
be able to tell the difference.
Yeah. Although, good luck to you eventually playing at 40,000.
Fingers crossed.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's going to happen, especially the way things go. And the latest record, fantastic.
Thank you.
Seems like you've been putting a lot of time and effort in on that one, but you're about to roll right past it, I think. You have
Yeah.
another release coming out later with David Byrne. I think
I do.
this is a lot of anticipation, a lot of expectations here.
I'm excited about it. I'm also in that camp of being of anticipatory excitement. That's going to come out in September, I guess, just about a year after Strange Mercy, and then we're hitting the road with that in September and October in the States. So.
And you get to make albums with your heroes at this point. I mean,
I do.
so
I have.
Did it take you long to humanize them? Did you have to humanize them? Did that have to happen?
It's David, and I think at this point now, I sometimes step back and I'm like, whoa, I'm talking to David Byrne. But he's so normal and so kind, and it's easy to...
Well, how did this record happen then? I mean, are you allowed to talk about it? I mean, was it total collaboration? Were you guys writing together? Did you come in with songs?
It was total collaboration. How it started was we got approached by a place called the Housing Works to do a night of music for their AIDS charity. And so we started writing songs. And then we got kind of so excited about what we were coming up with that we thought, well, why don't we just record what we have? And we kept writing, and eventually had an album, and etc. And it was very collaborative. I mean, there was no delineation of roles. I mean, he wrote music, I wrote music. He wrote words, I wrote words. He wrote words that I sang, I wrote words that he sang. You know, it's just like a big jumble. Yeah.
Did there, with him especially, themes kind of, when he's collaborating, it's usually thematic. Did you guys center in on something? Was it like that? Or is this
we did. I mean, especially because it's the nature of a collaboration is kind of more nebulous in general, but it's centered around a 16-piece brass band. So it's it was a big ensemble, and it was cool to get to work with those textures.
Are you guys going to be able to tour on it?
We are, We're going to tour in September and October in the States.
That's great.
Yeah.
Especially your kind of show and his kind of show. You've talked in the past about choreography, and I know he does a lot of choreography. Is there going to be any of that? Do you know if there's going to be any of that yet?
I'm waiting on the word.
Yeah.
I'm polishing my dancing shoes.
We'd love to see this.
Yeah.
Because I think he'll make you. He does.
You
he
probably
makes everyone.
Would.
Yeah.
I will. I'm game. Whatever.
Yeah. What about the punk rock side of you? Crocodile?
Oh,
Crocodile?
yeah.
How do you say it? You spelled it so odd.
I think you say it with a Russian accent. You say crocodile.
Crocodile. You do that well. Crocodile.
Yeah.
No, you gonna try that out anymore? Because I know you have the punk rock pass a little bit. You've got the love for the punk rock.
Yeah.
And this is the first time I really heard it from you, like coming out full force.
Yeah.
I want more.
It was fun to get to make that 7-inch and put it out, and we've been playing it live a little bit. And it's been a high point of the set because you don't. I mean, for me personally, because I don't often just go full force rage. That's fucking fun. So
get it out there. Last of all, Arrested Development.
Oh, yeah.
It's coming back. You've said it before that you would pick it outside to be on that soundtrack.
I would, yeah.
Covering the Team of Sil theme song, maybe, or...
Yeah, I bought a lawn chair. I'm all ready, and some supplies to make the sign. But no, I mean, honestly, at this point, I will issue a statement to Mitch Hurwitz, and I will say I will believe it when I see it. Because there have been rumors of it coming back forever.
Sure. It's going to happen. You got to have faith.
No.
You have faith. So, all right. Happy Bonnaroo to you.
Thank you.
It's great to see you this year. Congratulations on a big year.
Thank you.
And my thanks to Annie Clark. The new St. Vincent record is called Daddy's Home. Thanks to you, again, for checking out this episode. Please do hit the subscribe button before you get out of here. Again, with 3 new interviews every single week, it's a great way to keep up with all of your favorite artists, discover some new ones, and know what's happening in the music world. iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Acast, Podchaser, NPR, or YouTube for the video versions. After that, head over to WFPK.org, where I do a show Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern. It's an hour full of song premieres, music news, anniversary spins, bonus interviews, Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern at WFPK.org. Consequence has your music and film news. You can also find me on the social media spots, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all 3 of them at Kyle Meredith, TikTok at Kyle Meredith 81. Please do like and follow along and say hi when you do. That does it for another edition. I'm Kyle Meredith. I'll see you next time.
Consequence Podcast Network.
Hello?
Do you read Stephen King? Good news. There's a club for you. The Losers Club. Every Friday, us losers journey through the never-ending wastelands of King's Dominion. We sink our teeth into each of King's novels, dive deep into the lore, and review every adaptation. Even better, we're always having guests over. Thomas Jane, Will Wheaton, Mary Lambert, Mick Garris, the list goes on. So what are you waiting for? Join us as we read on through long days and pleasant nights.
It's easy to hear your favorite artist on WFPK from wherever you are. Listen on your smart speaker, live stream from our website at WFPK.org, from Louisville Public Media.